Hey everyone, welcome to your weekly Pledger update, where you see a real life startup unfolding before your eyes. When you look back at a startup's early story a few years later, especially if they were successful, it's hard to tell exactly what happened and how much has been rewritten to make a good story. We humans love to tell a good story, and who can resist making a few creative improvements to what actually happened for the sake of a better story? Well, in these updates and on the Discord, if you're following that, you're getting all the real stuff. The week by week developments, the twists and turns, as this new business assembles from basically nothing, hopefully someday to great heights. Well, we'll see about that. But let's get back to the here and now. So last week I was hoping we'd have a pre-launch site ready on Wednesday. We did not. We still don't at this point in time. The reason for this is that we've updated the regulatory approach at the last minute. The problem with our previous approach was that it would have attracted VAT and even corporate income tax. That's a hefty cut to the amount of money that ends up actually in the pocket of the startup. And when investing, I think you want most of the money to actually be used to build things, not to be wasted on taxes. As an aside, did you realize that this does apply to essentially any Kickstarter project that's in a jurisdiction that charges VAT? So when you back a Kickstarter project in the UK, let's say they raise £1 million. Not only will they have to pay VAT on that, about 167k, but also Kickstarter fees, another 50k, and also transaction fees, another 30 to 50k. That's up to 267k off the table right away. A good solid chunk out of that £1 million. And then if they don't spend it all in the financial year where they did the Kickstarter, they could still pay up to 20% corporation tax rate on that profit, which could take off another 146k in the worst case scenario. So in the extreme case where development takes a long time to ramp up and the financial year end is soon after the Kickstarter, that £1 million could turn into a measly £587,000. That's a lot of money to waste. If you sell securities though, those don't incur any VAT or corporation tax. Our original approach involved selling NFTs that weren't immediately securities and later attached to shares. That seemed clever until we realized how big an issue VAT would be, given that these NFTs will often be sold by European companies that have VAT rates around 20%. So we went back to the drawing board, had a long chat with the lawyer, and came up with a better plan. We will be doing the funding in stages. The startup has goals to raise $500,000 in total, but to reach their first milestone, they only need about 100. This happens to fall just under the regulatory limit, below which there is no need to file a prospectus when issuing securities in Germany. Pretty handy. So instead of a $500,000 fundraise, it's likely that the first project we put out will only raise $100,000 or thereabouts initially. I say or thereabouts because exchange rates can muck these neat numbers up. The downside of this last minute change is that we've had to push back the pre-launch and the launch. At this point, I don't want to give an exact date for the very selfish reason that I don't want to have to announce that it's slipped again. But I think I can say that we should have something in the next couple of weeks or so. Oh, and if you're holding your breath since last week to find out whether we're going to do the minting on-chain or not, good news. It will all be on-chain. We'll probably integrate with something like Paper or Winter, it's still not decided between those two, to make an easy on-ramp for non-crypto people. But crypto folks will be able to just mint normally. Well, almost normally, since first they'll have to get a KYC token. Eventually, we might integrate with something like Quadrata to just use their tokens. But for this first version, you'll have to get a KYC token from us, confirming you're not a resident or citizen of the US or China, which means that you'll need to mint via our website. Sorry to all the contract purists out there. Anyway, enough details for this week. There'll be more to talk about next week for sure. In the meantime, GM and good luck.